Ladies and gentlemen, enough time has truly passed to finally make another Kagurabachi character analysis video because like Gojo, now that JJK is over, I'm free from the shackles of Gege. And I've had this shitty character analysis in the backlogs for some time now because honestly Sojo is one of my favorite early villains in anime, so I feel like today we should talk about my favorite anime drug addict after Gojo, because I'll be the one to say it if no one else is gonna be. Let's get right into it. Who is Genichi Sojo? I know a lot of you guys are already on Kagurabachi, but for those of you who don't know, let me put you onto the series. Go check out the Chihiro video and watch this video. He is the first major antagonist of Kagurabachi, and boy, I cannot tell you enough, he knocks it out of the park. He is the perfect initial foil to Chihiro. He is very similar to Mahito, in fact. And we'll talk about this more in a sec, but it's very common in shonen for the first major antagonist to challenge and create a lot of the beliefs of the protagonist, but Sojo does this incredibly well. And because Kagurabachi is such a dark manga, he is also an underworld boss who doesn't really mess around. He's not the type to be like, oh, there's a lot of people coming, I'll handle them all myself. No, he'll bring a gun to a sword fight. Not literally, because you can see that he's actually using a sword, but he brought a lightning sword to a swordfish fight. But he does a lot of things that a lot of anime villains won't do. Like, he'll fuck up people that you don't think he'll fuck up, and he'll prepare the necessary arrangements for him to win anything. Now, I also want to mention that he has some weird under eye bags that are never really explained and kind of stained under his eye bags, but I want to attempt to explain them right now. First of all, he might be a drug addict. Second of all, he binges television because whatever he's seeing here is definitely not real life, nor is it explained. Third of all, I'm pretty sure he's a drug addict. Perhaps he doesn't even sleep. He's in deep philosophical thought, challenging Chihiro's ideals. And lastly, he definitely does cocaine. Once you see it in Sojo, you can never unsee it. He does crack cocaine. It's fine. I live in San Francisco. And the last important thing we have to talk about with Sojo is that he's a Rokuhira glazer. He's the person who created the swords, and man, he is worse than some of you guys in Gege. As far as Sojo is concerned, the man who created the swords, the man who basically instigated this entire story to start, is literal God. Except he doesn't take literal God's teachings as literal. All I'm saying is that if Kunishige made the worst binding vow of all time, do not be surprised to see Sojo defending him. Now, what has Sojo done? In a very based way, he did not waste time cultivating Hashirama cells from the beginning of the series. Finally, fucking our shonen villains are getting smarter. Like, this is just how to win. I liked Kagurabachi when I started reading it, but Sojo is the one who really sold me on it. Finally, we have an anime villain that is not fucking brain dead through his actions. He'll do whatever he needs to succeed. And he masters an enchanted blade in a week. He is fucking powerful. Yes, spoilers to a common trope, he gets taken down, but not before making us believe that he's actually a threat. He murks a squad designed to take him down, and he cuts off a little girl's leg just because it needed to be done. You just don't see it often. And I might get a little bit of flack for saying this, but Char, dude, if you were in my car, I might do the same thing. Not because I want your cells, but just because you're fucking annoying. And unfortunately, he's not in the story for that long, so the last important thing that he did was die. Question mark, thinking face emoji. And I know what you're thinking. This panel really makes it look like he died. Yep. We'll go over that in just a sec, but first let's go over what makes Sojo such a good villain. I've been gassing him up. First of all, like I said, he is a great foil, and it's because Chihiro's ideals and his mentality are vehemently challenged and clash against the antagonist. Chihiro's father created the blades, and Chihiro doesn't want anyone else to use them for senseless killing. On the other hand, Sojo says, well, blades are weapons, so that's what we should do. Chihiro then has to come to this grim realization that people will interpret things a different way. And yes, this is another common trope, but I really think it's funny the way Sojo does it, because it's like, you know in literature class when you read a novel and it says like the curtains were dyed red, and then your teacher's like, the curtains were dyed red means we must kill every single person and create genocide. Meanwhile, the author's like, no, it's just red. Like, that's Chihiro. No, it's just red. And Sojo's like, no, we have to kill everyone. Tangent aside, you get it? Regardless, in that same vein, Sojo rationalizes his flaws. This is so based. He will be the first to admit, hey, maybe my mentalities aren't actually all that smart. Maybe my ideals are kind of wrong. And then he'll rationalize them and trick himself, gaslight himself into thinking that they're right. Shades of fucking Luca. I found 101 things that are wrong with me, but if I can rationalize that they give me 102 right things, that's a +1 net positive. You know what I'm saying? So yet another character that proves Delulu is the Sululu, and he has mad charisma through his actions and his drawings. I mean, he just looks like he has fucking aura. Yeah, a green aura, but also a cool aura. And he has a complicated relationship with the protagonist, which is always super nice to see in a villain. And Chihiro and Sojo respected each other both in their own ways, and since Sojo was in the manga for such a short period of time, it's kind of amazing how much of an effect he had on Chihiro during that time. Now let's talk about will he live or die. I know this is kind of a weird point, but people within the community do think that he could come back, so let's first start with the arguments for living, starting with the fact that he is too good a villain to be cast off forever. In my opinion, this is a little bit of a weak point, you'll see this in a sec. He could become a powerful ally in the future, people think, because the main antagonists of the series are way stronger than Sojo was, and he has an unfinished backstory which we know little about, and we really do want to know. I lied to you guys, this was not television. It was PTSD. I do think his arguments for dying are a little stronger, in particular because Kagurabachi is on a dark trajectory. The fact that villains can in fact get better over time, like people like Zabuza as a villain, but a lot of the Naruto villains, for instance, got just way better over time, and he's an actual asshole who like tortured people, killed people. Not cool. And while he left his stamp on the hearts of many people in the community, revivals like these can really just be ass if they're done wrong. It's not wrong to just kill a character, let them die. Whoever needs to hear this, needs to hear this. In conclusion, what can we say about Genichi Sojo? Ooh, am I hyped to see a first villain that is as good as him. I know it's not a hot take anymore and that a lot of people are just saying, damn, Sojo's the best, but if you haven't read Kagurabachi, I highly recommend you do, and tell me that he's not better than Zabuza or Arlong. Maybe not as good as Mahito because Mahito was more prominent a character, but for the short amount of time he was in there, amazing. Next, we know that he's speedrunning Naruto late game because he's cutting off the legs of very innocent children, and so much of him is unexplained. We've got to see more of him, in particular his eye bags, which I tried to explain, so now we know that it's just cocaine. Feel free to share this on the internet. Everything you say on the internet eventually ends up being true. I mentioned in my Chihiro video that the fights in this manga are super easy to follow and super easy to read, so the fact that Sojo is such a talented katana user makes me so happy. His fights, this panel right here, when I was reading it, ooh, it fucking hyped me up, man. Like, I know what's going on. If you read it, you'll know as well. And it's aura, dude. And you stink. And while yes, it's up in the air whether he could live or die, he's definitely fucking dead. Sojo ended up selling me on Kagurabachi. And I do want to say, out of the 40 plus, I think, at the time of this recording, chapters that have come out of Kagurabachi, I don't think there's been a single bad one. If you haven't yet read it, I highly recommend it. It is a very typical shonen done in an excellent way, in my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you do, remember you get aura and sexiness and I'll tuck you in and read you a bedtime story. Maybe we can hang, go on a coffee date. I don't fucking know. Do cocaine with the other San Franciscans. Sounds like a pretty good time. Kagurabachi fans, let me know what you think about Sojo. Am I glazing him too hard? Honestly, he was really fun. There's not too much to say bad about him because he was in the story for such a short period of time. But let me know. As always, leave me suggestions for future videos down below. Any games, series, real-world things to cover. I've got some good stuff in store. I hope to see you there. You're looking excellent. Sleep so you don't look like Sojo. Goodbye. I love you.